Our special guest speaker tonight, Massey Campos. He's the founder of Self-Evident Ministry, which is an educational ministry that presents the founder's biblical view of law and government. He's got a motto on his website that reads, "Reaching this nation one soul at a time." And we know how that is. And so it's going to be good to hear from you, Massey, tonight, how you're doing that. It's also stated on his website that he is dedicated and burdened to educating Americans about the biblical heritage of our nation, of government, and preaching the gospel to all who will hear. That's wonderful. I can't wait to hear what you're going to say. Massey and his wife and their 3 sons live in Port St. Lucie, Florida. And we're very grateful that Hurricane Dorian turned north and didn't wipe out his town. Welcome to Texas, Massey. Come on up.
Hi. Hi. So I got to switch some of these things around. I didn't know they were going to do that. How is everyone? Rousing speeches, guys. That was crazy. I'm like back here going, crap, I wish we could have that in Florida. Because you get a lot of the promises, you know what I mean? A whole lot of promises, a whole lot of people saying the right things, and it just doesn't happen. I actually used to live in Minnesota, and then I got smart, and then I moved to Florida, and it was great. So yeah, this is the name of the ministry. It's called Self-Evident. Oh, you can't really see it. I'm very sorry about that. I didn't think it would do that. But anyways, here we are. Now, my name is Massey Campos. I am a third-generation preacher, but I'm an American. I get tired of hearing Mexican-American, African-American. We are Americans of these United States, and I believe that had we united that way in the first place, you wouldn't have the divisions you have. I have a podcast called Self-Evident Podcast, and we travel a ton with it. I go all over the country preaching this kind of stuff, and I always tell my buddies, I say to them all the time, isn't it funny how they call people like myself a minority? But I'm an American. Aren't I the majority? I find it odd that being Hispanic has somehow made me a class. We're Americans here. Matter of fact, let me admit, Fern, it's a great example. Let's say you and I go to church together. You're obviously Caucasian. I'm obviously, most people think I'm Hawaiian. My wife thought I was Asian because I was chubby. And she goes, you should lose some weight. And I said, I don't want to do that because it keeps my wrinkles away. So I'm trying to maintain the youth. But Fern, imagine if you and I went to church together and you and I sat up and I said, hey, Fern, how are you? My name is Massey. I'm a Mexican Christian. And then you came up to me and you said, wait a minute, I'm a white Christian. Isn't that ridiculous? Are we brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ? That's what this is about. You're my brother and sister as an American. We abide under one thing called the Constitution. The power is in the people. Not even a document. It's in the people who uphold that document and understand that document. We're going to talk about that today. Again, here's the podcast. This is really, really odd, isn't it? Doesn't it look weird? Or am I just wrong here? It's really, really huge. I'm very, very sorry. There we go. Anyways. We're going to continue. So this is part of the podcast that it's just a 2-minute piece. Wow, that looks really crappy. Oh well. So here's just a piece of the podcast. I hope you guys enjoy it. There's a preacher and wife who are very, very poor. They already have 14 children. Now she finds out she's pregnant with their 15th. They're living tremendous poverty. Considering their poverty and the excessive world population, which some preach, would you recommend she get an abortion?
I remember the day that I found out that I was pregnant, and he threatened. He said, you're not having my baby, and I'm going to make sure of it.
The father is sick with the sniffles. The mother has tuberculosis. They have 4 children. The first child is blind. The second is deaf. The third child is deaf. The fourth has TB. She finds out she's pregnant again. Given the extreme situation, would you consider recommending an abortion?
Yeah, one thing led to another, and I'm pregnant, I'm getting an abortion, and you're paying for it.
A white man raped a 13-year-old black girl and she became pregnant. If you were her parents, would you consider recommending an abortion? Christ died for you. For you. For you. For you. For you. All of us.
And so when I went in there, I will never forget every single detail that happened. I can remember the room, I can remember the sounds, I can remember everything. But I
A teenage girl is pregnant, she's not married. Her fiancé is not the father of the baby, and he's very upset. Would you consider recommending an abortion? You can drop it off and give it to God, and He will show you the way. If you would have recommended an abortion in any of these situations, you should know that. In the first case where there was like 16 kids, you would have recommended killing John Wesley, one of the greatest evangelists and field preachers in the 18th century. In the second case, you would have killed Ludwig van Beethoven, one of the most famous musical composers of all time. In the third case, you would have recommended killing Ethel Waters, one of the nation's leading gospel singers. In the fourth case, you would have just recommended killing Jesus Christ.
Can God really heal someone that's been beaten and raped? Can He clean them up? And I say, yeah, you're looking at it.
I gotta quit showing this thing. I get teary-eyed every time I show it. It's funny because when I moved to Florida, actually, I gotta tell you the story real fast. We were actually supposed to come here in 2017 and we had to cancel. And here's why. We were on a 2-month tour in the summer and I packed the kids up in a trailer and said, sons, we're doing it. So we put all of our stuff in a rental property, a storage unit, and we hit the road, right? And we went up to Michigan first, then we went over to Minnesota because they need it too, right? They need the message of liberty and the gospel, obviously, right? And then so we started down south and we hit Kansas, and an 80 mile an hour gust of wind flipped our truck and trailer. We lost everything. It was pretty crazy. That was actually a picture. There it is. It was pretty insane. So I remember my wife called here and said, hey, we're not going to be able to make it on Saturday. Sorry. Right? And so none of us got hurt, thank God, but we lost everything. We didn't have anything left to our name. And it's funny because that was the truck, and that was my side right there. And I wasn't even wearing my seatbelt because I just didn't. I was only going about 30 miles an hour because it was storming out. And this Kansas stuff's real, man. That's no joke. Wizard of Oz is right. Toto, man. Like straight up. It was crazy. And so, but the cool thing is God totally provided for us, and here we are 2 years later. Maybe it was a God thing. Maybe we're supposed to be here for this reason. And I want to say something too. When you guys watch the recent Democratic debates and all these things that were happening, how many times did you hear the word Constitution come up? Zero. Exactly. When you hear people running even for Congress or whatever, how many times does the word Constitution come up? I don't care, honestly, about President Trump's promises or Biden's promises. If it doesn't align with the Constitution, it's null and void to me. It doesn't make sense. And if we keep going away from this document that preserves American liberty, we're going to continue to lose this war. Right? We're going to talk about that today. Now, I'm the founder of... all that stuff. And I'm also a pastor. Now, I became the associate pastor of my church in Florida because I can't shut up. And I love people, right? They need the gospel. And you know what's funny is once I stepped into being a pastor, I started to realize, holy smokes, we can empower pastors, man. They need to start preaching liberty from the pulpits. Straight up. So, we started a coalition in Florida now to get pastors elected to city official seats and all these things. So now we're working on that. Now, I would run for public office, but I am too darn busy and I have kids, and I neglected my kids for the first 5 years of their life because of ministry. And I committed the gravest sin I always thought I would never do in ministry. And I neglected them because of ministry. So I can't do that. But I am empowering other people and other patriots to do so. And maybe in 10 years when my kids grow up and they actually make something of themselves, because they will, then I can. We can go out and do something. We can take this over because we need to right now. Right? There's no more time. And so I got saved when I was 21. I almost committed suicide. And I remember that in 2004 I was in a ministry. We were traveling into public schools and colleges. And I heard this phrase in 2004 and it bothered the snot out of me. You know what it was? Separation of church and... I had no clue what it meant. As a 23-year-old, I'm thinking to myself, what are you talking about, separation of church and state? I didn't get scared. I got upset. Here's why. Because the Bible tells me to go preach the gospel to every creature. It doesn't say go into all the world and preach the gospel except public schools. That bothered me. What are you talking about, separation? So then I prayed. I said, Lord, what does this mean? What is going on? I'm so sorry. So I prayed. I said, Lord, show me something. What are you talking about? So then I'm outside pumping gas one time. I was doing a fundraiser for a youth ministry, and it was fun. And I was pumping gas for this old lady. And I said, hey, we're doing a fundraiser for this youth ministry. Do you want to help donate? She said, absolutely. She had a bumper sticker on her car, and it said, Michael Perutka, President, 2004, God, Family, Republic. How many of you guys have ever heard of Michael Perutka before? Exactly. I was like, what? Who's this? She goes, oh, that's Michael Perugia. He's running for president. I was like, of what? Because at that time, I was pretty liberal still, even as a Christian. And I thought only Democrats and Republicans existed. I really thought the two-party system.